Hi, Lawrence. It's Lori and Lawrence. We're back for another episode of This Week in Flat Earth. And good to see you. First of all, I wanted to say that this has been a pretty exciting week for, I know I should have my excited face on, but I'm not really too happy about the outcome of this exciting news so far. And the news is that the Flat Earth has made the mainstream news, sort of, on an introductory level. And we first saw that in the UK. Lawrence posted a link on Facebook to the magazine, I guess you would call it, online magazine newspaper in UK regarding the Flat Earth, and an introduction into what the news media looks like it's going, the direction that it's going to go to introduce the Flat Earth to people. And then that article was sort of mirrored and picked up by a US online website, online magazine blog that discusses the same thing. And I'm going to read some of it in a minute, but I wanted to give Lawrence an opportunity to talk about what he feels about the article that came out and give us some backdrop and backstory about the article that came out in UK over there, and you know, what you think the ramifications are of it.
Yeah, well, it came out in the Daily Express. It's online, but it's also printed as well. So more people will read the newspaper than actually read the online, but more and more are looking at newspapers online because they'll get the same content but not have to pay for it. And the readership is about 3 million a week. So in numbers, you know, a lot of people won't see it, but it was a very big feature. You know, it wasn't just a few lines. It went on for page after page, and you know, it posted all of Mark Sargent's Flat Earth clues, and it was headed up with the main headline was the dome. So, you know, that's the direction they're going. I think they've realised that this movement is, you know, they can't stop the momentum any further, that they want to seize control of it. So they will release it to the masses, but on their terms, and their terms is going to be with the dome accentuated as the main point. So it's a question of ultimately, you know, who put the dome over us, even though we're pretty certain there isn't a dome. You know, there's no evidence that there is one. So I'm sure they're not going to be saying it's God or a creator. They're probably going to be involving the aliens, because they've been, you know, using the predictive programming for aliens for, you know, since Roswell, which is what, you know, 50, 60 years ago. Or, yeah, at least 60 years, is it? 1949. So that's about, you know, 60 years ago. And they'll be bringing the two together. So I think this is all part of the original plan. They got all their operatives in at the start, and we, you know, those of us who are genuine flat earthers, we know who all the operatives are, the agents, the people working for the other side who are masquerading as flat earthers, and they will push the flat earth with little detail about, you know, the true, you know, proofs of the flat earth, but they will accentuate all the things that they've been told to, like the dome. And but there are some good things coming out to counteract it. So I think the battle now is not going to be about is it flat or not. It's going to be, you know, who made us, you know, who put us here, who enclosed us, if they indeed did, which we don't think so they did, but who did it, and it's us against everybody else, you know. But I'm sure more are going to see through this deception, and you know, the numbers are going to grow, but there will be two sides, because there's going to be a huge wave of new people coming in if the mainstream start, you know, putting these stories out in the you know, vast portfolio of you know, news outlets. The more they put out, then the more people are going to come to the table looking at flat Earth, but they'll have already been pre-programmed with you know, their version. So that's the battle. and things are going to hot up, and the numbers are going to go, and the numbers of YouTubers is going to get even bigger.
And of course, one of the first things that they did in the UK version was they picked a classic UK British term, which we all know what madcap means. And if we don't, we should Google it so that we understand the definition, because it basically is insane, crazy, wild, antic type person. And so that's the word they chose to put down as part of the headline. Then, of course, in the US, it was mirrored. And instead, the headline, this is from the Inquisitor, INQUISITR, and it's called Under the Dome. Flat Earthers say we live under a huge glass dome. Now, I'm going to save my commentary until after I read just a little bit of this, but the headline is in US vernacular, the spin, and they're telling you what you're supposed to think before you even read the article. And most people who have a pretty short attention span, when they read Under the Dome, that's been a classic sci-fi type. I mean, the only thing they left out here was Under the Thunderdome. That's a pretty classic sci-fi angle, and there's shows on TV now that are about a dome. There's been quite a few movies, Dark City, The Truman Show, Under the Thunderdome, quite a few. The Giver has a classic kind of enclosure concept. So the idea is that we're in an enclosure, and what I and others have been complaining about over the last months is the fact that Mark Sargent, when he created his website called enclosedworld.com, and for his own hit's sake, you might as well go there and look at it if you haven't already. The idea is that we live under a dome, and that this dome was created he's willing to say God, but God appears to be some kind of steampunk fallen angel gods or something. I'm not exactly sure who his creator is, but I've been very critical, and so have others, of Mark Sargent's Enclosed World. Obviously, he had the opportunity to buy Flat Earth Clues when it came out, and I've heard him explain that he had no intention of buying Flat Earth Clues as his domain name to put his website on, that he specifically chose Enclosed World. And he is, in this article, the focus of it is, and I'll just read a little bit of the first of it. It says, up until around the 14th century, people believed the earth was flat, and if you sailed too far, you would fall over the edge. Fast forward to right now, and what are known as the flat earthers pretty much believe the same theory. Now, it seems the flat earthers are reportedly going one step further, with one member of their society who might possibly have binge-watched the science fiction show Under the Dome, believing we are enclosed in a giant glass dome. This immense glass dome apparently prevents us from leaving Earth. Reportedly, said dome is high enough to allow planes to fly, but for instance, when SpaceX Falcon 9 exploded in the air back in June, they say it may have crashed into the invisible dome. Presumably, the glass dome also prevents us all from falling off the edge of the world. Viewing any NASA video relating to the International Space Station on YouTube attracts thousands of comments from members of the Flat Earth Society. According to them, NASA is using CGI to create those wonderful images of Earth from space. In other words, to them, it's all completely fake. International Space Station doesn't exist. The Curiosity rover, merely a vehicle beetling around in some reddish desert on Earth, and not an amazing vehicle discovering the science of Mars. Almost without fail, these comments tend to lean towards expletives and insulting words like, for example, ball-tards, referring to the ball earthers and with no genuine scientific evidence to back them up. Ironically, as reported in the Express, that's the UK version, the Enclosed World website on which the dome theory is posted was created by a man who was attempting to debunk the flat Earth theory, but who ended up getting caught up in the craziness too. Mark Sargent is an IT specialist from Boulder, Colorado, and back in 2014, he started looking into, his words, what is no doubt the most ridiculous conspiracy ever, called the flat Earth theory. However, after Sargent did some extensive research, he reportedly became a convert and now fully supports the flat Earth theory. Early this year, Sargent released a series of YouTube videos titled Flat Earth Clues, which asked the question, is it possible that we are all living in a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide? Sargent theorizes that when man first attempted spaceflight, they discovered this dome and then found it necessary to hide this from the public ever since by creating amazing CGI effects, faking the moon landing, the International Space Station, and more. It all makes one wonder how on earth, excuse the pun, Spain recently got bombarded with several pieces of space junk, as reported recently on the Inquisitor. Eric Dubé is another flat Earth theorist who runs the website The Atlantean Conspiracy. Dubé, 33, reportedly seeks to expose the New World Order, saying we have been lied to all of our lives. We have been taught, contrary to all common sense and experience, that the seemingly motionless flat Earth beneath our feet is actually a massive moving ball spinning through space at over 1,000 miles per hour, but that you feel and experience none of it. That's a quote from Dubé. Then it says, Dubé, a 33-year-old yoga and Wing Chun teacher living in Thailand, then goes on about a mysterious force called gravity, which prevents everything falling or flying off the spinning ball Earth. That the flat earther thinks it's strange that gravity is strong enough to keep people, the oceans, and the atmosphere tightly bound to the surface, but is just weak enough to allow bugs, birds, and planes to take off with ease. So readers, do you believe we live on a flat Earth enclosed in a glass dome and that there is no such thing as man's efforts in space? Let us know below. So that concludes their article. And the question that they leave you with at the end is, do you believe we live on a flat Earth enclosed in a glass dome? Not just that it's flat or version thereof. The only version we're going to get to select from is a globe or a flat Earth enclosed in a dome.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is they've, if you look on YouTube now at the release videos, you get some people who are making ridiculous numbers of YouTubes who are all promoting this version, or it's included in their material for the, you know, the circular Earth, the circular sun, and the dome. For somebody called Flatwater. I think he's probably made 120 videos in a month or so, which is like, you know, they're doing this as a full-time job. Who can do that? Who can find the time to make 120 YouTubes? It takes a lot of messing around and uploading this stuff. It does take time. So where are these people getting the time to do this? And other, you know, and you search on it now and you've got, you know, 50 episodes of Flat Earth and Hot Potatoes, which talks about nothing. It just takes people away from the more investigative flat Earth research. That people are not finding it because you know they have to. It's like finding a needle in a haystack to find the stuff, the good stuff. And you know, you only tend to find it when somebody's done a lot of digging and they post it and say, well, that's a very interesting one, but it's had like 200 views. You know, I found one today that had hardly any views. It was and I haven't had a chance to pull it apart yet or have a good look at it, but near the international date line, there's some islands, and they're like 50 miles apart. But if you want to fly from one to the other, you've got to go like on a 5,000-mile journey in the total opposite direction. So that international date line, there's something very mysterious about that, which we need to get to the bottom of, and I'm sure people will. There's information to come out of that yet. It's another big story. But it remains to be seen what it is. And the other thing that's come out this week, which is going to help the fight to keep the truth going in the right direction, is Tiger Dan. So I know Tiger Dan watches us sometimes because he's commented on the show. And Tiger Dan is attempting to reconstruct from scratch a new model of the flat Earth, and he's using airports as the basis for the model. So obviously he's going to triangulate airports. You get 3 airports, and you get the spacing correct, and then you're going to try and make that to look like an Earth. But he's going to come unstuck doing it on a circular Earth. It's not going to work. So hopefully Tiger Dan will say, I'm sorry, but it's not a circular Earth. Can't be done. So Tiger Dan, if you're watching, to save you time, if you really want to get to the bottom of what the Earth looks like as a map, then at the same time as your circular Earth, get a Mercator, square rectangular Earth, do the same exercise on there. So when you do your calculations, put it on both and come back to us with both versions. Yeah, that's what you need to do, and let's see which looks the best. And then you're going to satisfy the doubters, because at the moment you seem to be still sitting in the camp of a circular Earth. You're starting off with not the Mercator, with the azimuthal equidistant projection, which we know is not a map. It's just the means of measuring distances to a centre point, which can be used from getting A to B, but only if you're starting off from the point in the centre. Anywhere else, then all the distances are distorted. So you're never going to get the continents to the correct side on a distorted map. So, if you're going to do this exercise, which apparently you've already started, then square map and round map. Let's do the comparison and see how they marry up, and then bring that to us. I'm sure you're very good at presenting this sort of stuff in a way that we can all understand. So, soon you bring that out of the bed, even if it's to say that you can't do it, let's have it. Let's know where you're at, because you did say you'd give us some updates, and you've done one, but you had another few more days to have a bash at it now. Let's find out where you're at with it, because everybody's waiting to see what you've got.
Well, and think of it this way. I said this in a post on Facebook the other day, and I'm a visual person, so I thought about the opportunity is there for whoever, all of us, any of us, anybody, to find every large city in the world, and clearly they all have a latitude and longitude. You can go on Wikipedia and look up every single large city and semi-large city and ask for its latitude and longitude, and plot that on latitude and longitude marks. Now, whether you're going to use it, use the AE map, the Mercator map, the whatever projection that you want to label as the map that you're going to use, those numbers are the basis by which a corrected, if you start with no map, even, you just start with a blank sheet of paper, and you make latitudes and you make longitudes, and then you plot these cities on those coordinates, sooner or later some kind of puzzle picture is going to start to appear. Wouldn't you say? Is that a little too simplistic?
I think if they use the airports as a means, and if the flight times, if you're working,
you're cutting out, Lawrence.
If you're talking about using flights to do it, then if you're working on whatever 500 mile an hour for long distance flights, then that's going to be a pretty good guide as to the distance between these airports. So if you can do a world map with all the main airports on, then you don't have to drop.
Right.
you don't need to draw all the coastlines. Just put where they are, you know,
Right.
and just put a rough outline.
You don't need the coastlines. You only need them to be plotted on latitude and longitude marks.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, okay? There's many people, those of us who came into this months and months ago, maybe a couple years ago, like Lawrence, getting close to a year ago, like me. When you came in, you came into sort of the bare bones version of flat Earth. There was a few video makers. There was this curious map that they were projecting as the flat Earth map for the purpose of making models. And because everybody was asking, you know, how does the sun work? How does the moon work? How do the stars work? How come you can see stars spinning one way in the southern hemiplane and the other way in the northern hemiplane? And I'm saying that purposefully because somebody attacked last week saying, oh, if you even say the word hemisphere, you're not a really true flat earther. It's a hard thing to do, to break your entire lifetime of vocabulary and vernacular. So bear with me, bear with any flat earther who's becoming. And so the idea is that initially we came in and we started asking all these questions, and then we started seeking answers to them. And along the way, people say, oh, I got a theory, or oh, I have a hypothesis, or oh, I have a model. This is how it works. Now, this is how it works. There are now hundreds of groups of people looking into different, you know, aspects of the flat Earth concept and trying to solve all these mysteries. And so at the end of the day, when people like Mark Sargent came on the scene with his flat Earth clues, curiously, there were no curvature clues. Curiously, everything was about the plane flights, which are a real bone of contention with the globe Earth believers who bother. I mean, everybody's a globe Earth believer unless they're a flat earther. But there's a certain amount of globe Earth believers who bother to get into the contentious comments and arguments and debates and questioning, you know, how do you explain this? And how do you explain Coriolis effect and all these things? And so it became sort of a challenge quickly for all of the stronger flat earthers who were creative and who had sort of a point to prove, to find answers to these questions that stood up, or that at least in some cases snowballed the crap out of you to where you couldn't argue with it any better than you could argue gravity. So they sort of won by default, or at least it became a tie. So then suddenly this dome popped into the picture. It was not there at the beginning. And as a matter of fact, Mark Sargent wasn't actually talking about a dome. He wasn't even getting into much of the biblical aspect to tie in the flat earth until the enclosed world concept came out, which was pretty early. I think it was maybe May, somewhere in there. And then, you know, that's what he stuck to ever since, and doing the repetitious Truman Show. We live in a Truman Show dome-like world. And then Rob Skiba, he has a very, you know, intricate design that he's made of Yahweh's terrarium, is what he calls it. And I mean, it has a box, and then inside the box is this, you know, it's a square. So we cover that angle of the four corners of the earth. And then inside of it, it has a firmament, which is, you know, a dome shape. And that's supposed to be the vault of the sky. And then, on from there. Nobody explains anything else about how the world works. And absolutely nobody goes into any supernatural explanations for how things work. We spoke about it last week, some about the Enochian gates and about the timeline of the international date line, and how all of a sudden you're living in the next day as soon as you cross it. So nobody's trying to direct the conversation. I got accused of that today. Kristen, who was on the show last week, got accused of that today because she dared to say, are you prepared to be a planer or a domer? And, the proverbial shit hit the fan because she dared the domers, or anyone who has already bought into a dome and closed world concept. Here's where they're going to take it, and here's the reason why. And you know the same reason why I do. So why don't you say what you think the reason why they've chosen to introduce this thing under the dome, Lawrence?
Well, I think the concept of the dome is to take things away from any kind of spirituality and take it into the realms of aliens. And they're going to bring the two together. So you're going to get more and more stories about aliens coming. There's been lots anyway, and sightings of UFOs. And I think ultimately they're going to destruct NASA completely because they need a scapegoat for, the deception that they've pulled over us. They're going to have to blame somebody. So if they get NASA shut down in the next few years altogether, and it's all in the hands of so-called private corporations, NASA won't be there, so they can lay the blame firmly at the foot of NASA. They deceived us all these years. Nothing to do with us. We're just the newspapers. We haven't got nothing to do with them. We're not owned by the same people. And they'll be the people who take the blame for it. But yeah, the Earth is flat. We're sorry, folks. That's been the truth all the time. NASA couldn't send you any photographs because they couldn't leave because of the dome. But we didn't want to tell you at the time because we didn't want to cause any unrest. But unfortunately, you're all locked in, and there's a big glass dome over you, and we're going to take some reporters out to the edge of the dome to show you what it looks like. And then they'll have the green screen and domes and stuff like that. Nobody will be allowed to go and see it or touch it because it's not there. Ultimately, that's what I see is going to happen.
And so here's the thing that people ask the question about: why would they go to the dome? Why would they choose the dome theory? And that is because it contains everything under the same space. In other words, they don't have to give up control. They already control this amount of space. They already control the banking, the governments, the boundary lines, who's getting what, who's in charge of what. They have all their systems in place. They don't have to change any of that when the dome gets plopped over the top of it. Whereas, and all the people who are embracing, and I'm just going to put this out there, and you can get mad at me for saying it if you want. I'm not here to win a Miss Flat Earth crown, okay? It's not on my agenda. I don't care about making friends. I actually don't prefer to make any enemies, but I need to say what's on my mind and on my heart, because if I don't, I'm not trying to make a prediction. I'm not trying to manifest it this way, okay? But what I am doing is I have thought this through a lot over the months. Why would they do this? What is this going to be? Where are they coming from? I know they're coming for us. I know they know we're here. I know they know we've been expecting you. Okay, so the idea is they didn't wake up the flat earthers. The flat earthers were woken up by something else, and They knew that it was coming and they knew that it would happen. So they're using a lot of the biblical explanations, terminology, the creation story. They're working all of that in. Okay, that's when they insert that the God that created this earth is not the God of the Bible. It's not the only God. It's the God that created this earth. And this God came from whatever, Pleiades or Arcatron or wherever, okay? And they've been here all along, and they live out beyond the ice, beyond the dome, whatever their spin story is going to be. I mean, I have a pretty creative mind. I can think of a lot of, ways to spin it out. But at the end of the day, they show us a dome, whether it's a CGI version, whether it's a Project Bluebeam version, however they can do it. They may have been building it out of ice for the last 50 years. And it could be as high as the Tower of Babel, for all we know. But then what? Then we don't win anything. Okay, we admit it, the earth is flat, we've been lying, and here's why we've been lying: because the aliens made us do it, or we're protecting us from the aliens, or that the God that made this doesn't want to be with you people. You lowly,
you just raised a very interesting
human.
point there, Laurie. Yeah, when you just said, let's assume that they reveal the dome theory and that they take some people out there and film them, a news crew or whatever. Then maybe over in Antarctica, they are actually building part of a dome, their version of it. You mentioned they made it out of ice or something, but it's quite possible that they've done that, and that would be quite convincing if it was big enough. And you could actually take people to see it, in carefully controlled visits, and you'd see the edge, but it'd be just the little bit that they'd bet. It wouldn't be going all around the world. It'd be just part of it. So that is possible.
Well, how they could be putting chemtrails in the sky to put create a green screen, blue screen, whatever you want to call it, out of chemicals. I don't know, and project. I mean, half the people out there that you talk to are now starting to think that everything up there is a projection. I mean, I got into that discussion today. It's like people. You can sci-fi your ass off all you want, but the reality is that the surface of the earth is flat. There is no curvature. The more they get us away from that simple reality, that simple explanation, we're not charged with explaining everything. We're not responsible to reinvent the science of the earth. What we're responsible for is to our fellow man that the earth is flat, and they are lying, and they're trying to tell us that it's a globe and have been for a long. I was born on this globe. Okay, they didn't just sell this to me 3 weeks, 5 years ago. I was born, plopped on this globe, and I grew up on a globe. And then suddenly something told me to look. Something told me to ask the question. Now, the farther they get us away from, if you stand here and you look over there and you can see that, and there's no hump of water that's 400 feet high that's disguising it, or you can't see it, then there's no curvature. Okay, there's no discernible curvature, and that should be the end of the story. You guys are not going to get away without answering that question. I don't care about domes. I don't care about projections of stars and planets and space stations. I don't care. Okay, there's only that one thing that I care about. Show me why there's no curvature. I mean, it's just that simple. Explain, show me why, because nobody can find it. It's not there.
Yeah, I know. I
So
mean, I
get
think somebody.
sidetracked on domes is the spin that's going to make us all look crazy.
Yeah, and one of the things Mark Sargent said was, when he was talking about the flights, he said there are no shortcuts on the flat Earth. There are shortcuts on a globe, but I think he's not being truthful there. And I think there are shortcuts on the flat Earth. You can't get them on a circular Earth surrounded by ice, but you can get them on a square Earth. So I think there are shortcuts, which explains the aviation conundrums that people have been coming up with. There are shortcuts, maybe more than more than what I think there are. But you've got all this stuff that's going on at the Bermuda Triangle. I'm sure the authorities know where all these shortcuts are, and that they probably use them to their own benefit. They may be able to pop in and out of time, traveling a bit further back and forward. I'm pretty sure that it sounds like science fiction, but this thing's a whole lot more complex than I first thought. It's looking. I mean, I just found out. I didn't find out about this by, watching a YouTube. It came into my head. It was a message from the ether to look into it, and I did. And it's like a full-time job, just trying to keep tag of what's coming out, and and it's the new people that are coming into it who decide to do some independent research in a different area. That's where this thing's gonna unfold. It's not recirculating the same old stuff and posting it on pages week after week, which is what's happening mostly. It's the new stuff, but it's very hard to find because they are deliberately flooding the YouTube channels with dross, like the hot potatoes rubbish from Patricia Steer and Mark Sargent's Strange World, where he gets that silly girl who talks funny and puts everything in glitter.
I don't know about that one. They're coming on strong every day. There's like new characters.
They're bringing in all sorts of freak shows because that's what it's a bit like the Big Brother shows that they have, where they monitor people day by day, and they're bringing in all the freaks because that's what it's going to take the interest away from the real truth. There's going to be lots of freaky things. All these guys in masks and stuff. I mean,
well, sure. And you know what? Here it is. You're a simple person. I'm a simple person. We're just real people. Okay, we're just talking real talk. We don't have any shtick. We don't have any glitzy, glamorous names. We don't have costumes. We don't have masks. We don't have wands and glitter. We just talk straight, okay? And it may be boring as hell, but at the end of the day, this isn't, this is the difference between living on a ball and living on a flat plane. This is the difference between finding out that you've been lied to your whole lives and asking why. This is about finding out why would they conspire to do this. There has to only ever be one answer to that question. Always, always. Doesn't matter what movie you watch, what book you read, what theater you go to. It's always the same story. There's always some mean sumbitch who wants to control everybody. And there's always, those who just want to live their lives and happy and be free. Okay. And so the characters of the guy who always wants to control the world, but you must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent, but you must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent. I mean, those characters have always been there. They're modeled after real people, okay? There really are slimy bastards out there who think they're smarter than everyone else and deserve, by virtue of I'm smart, I'm rich, and I got, time to do, that I can control the world because you people are just ruining it. I mean, that's what they believe. They actually think that. We need to herd you all into cities and herd you. I mean, I just read today that there are roughly 60 million people by, I don't know, a few years from now, but that are going to be living in some form of refugee camps. Okay, no home ownership, no land ownership, no property, no home. They live in a tent or a tin stretched over their head. And as far as I'm concerned, that's Hunger Games. Okay, that's there's getting more of that and less of the other, less of the normal. You live in a house, you have a car, you have a job, you have a life. Okay, so in my investment that I'm making with a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of research, a lot of reading and digging and watching other people's research and getting drawings sent to me by email from the website, people coming up with ideas. As the months have gone on, I've gotten to the point of what I call flat earth fatigue. I mean, I'm there. And it's not because I'm tired, it's because I'm hitting the wall of seeing that something else is going to take control of this, just like it always does in every movement, in every large group of people that are coming together about something. And this is the time that I see that they're doing it. And I fear, this was my fear. And I've had people say, you shouldn't be afraid. You're manifesting that fear. Okay. When I use the word fear, okay, it is not that I'm afraid of these people. It is simply a word that says my worst nightmare is going to happen unless somebody stops this train. And this train is headed for a dome. And there's absolutely no observable proof of a dome. Don't tell me about curved rainbows. I don't want to hear about sundogs. I don't want to hear about reflections. I don't want to hear about pieces of glass found in the middle of the desert. I don't want to hear about floods or gates or any of these things with regards to what's overhead. So let me ask you a question, Lawrence. If the map gets changed, if the map gets proven, the map that they're plopping this dome over the top of, okay? Because Mark Sargent has already said, oh, it's probably an 800 or 1,000 miles beyond the ice ring, the ice wall, okay? Yeah. That we don't even know goes all the way around the circle. We don't even know it's a circle. We don't know any of these things for fact, okay? Somebody inserted that and everybody was like, oh, hey, what do you know? That looks pretty good. I think I'll buy right into that. Because you know what we can do? We can plop a dome right over the top of that circle and look how that fits. Hey, amazing. Okay, so if the map is wrong, the dome won't fit. Maybe you're going to have to stretch that dome out and you're going to have to make one of those square curved kind of domes with the, groin corners in it that comes to a vault or something. I'm sure there's something in their architecture somewhere that they've made over the last 500 years, or some little cute hat that is a dome that sits over the top of all religious people's heads. I mean, you can see domes everywhere. It is the government control, religio-governmental system that the dome represents. Is that? Could I be any more clear that that's what I see, that's what I think when I see dome? The government, Capitol buildings, and insides of vaulted church ceilings where the apses go off in this direction or that. I mean, that's what I see, okay?
Yeah.
So my question is, Lawrence, sorry about that really long rant, but I had to get that off my head. if the map changes, how does the dome fit? So that's why there's so much push for this AE map, and so much backpedaling and rejection. Why are you even questioning this Earth map? This map works fine. Okay, no, it doesn't work fine. It doesn't work for times. It doesn't work for travel. It doesn't work for going from here to there in the sea. None of that stuff works all by itself. Okay, so if you change the map, which is the big rejection that people are pushing against you, for example, and anyone else who questions the map, if you prove the map wrong, you prove the dome doesn't fit over it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, we're waiting on Tiger Dan to come up with this model and see what he comes up with.
I'm not going to put it all on his head. Yes, he said he's doing it, but everyone should be checking into these things. Everyone should be taking their own city and
yeah. Well, if you go online,
latitude and longitude of where they live is. Look it up right now. Look up the name of your city and look up latitude and longitude and the name of your city.
You can do that, but if you look at longitude and latitude and you just do a search on it, you'll get some websites where you can put in the coordinates. So you find out where they are to start with, and you find 2 places, and it will draw a line on a globe for you or on a map, and you can actually do your own research, because although they're projecting it on the globe, these distances are actually pretty accurate, because they're mirrored by the flight times. If you've got something that's 5,000 miles away and it's getting there in about 10 or 11 hours, then that's pretty reasonable distance between them. So,
but then you have to take the flight where it originated and where it went to, the time and the amount of distance. But then you also have to see the flight path. The actual real flight path. So why do you think all the flight paths are just like poof gone in the southern hemiplane when these planes leave within 200 miles of the shore of whatever country they just took off from, and then bloop, they're not on the radar or the map or what? I'm sure they're on somebody's radar, I don't know, but they're not on these flight tracker models that they have on.
There was a video that came out today.
Gone.
I haven't got it in front of me, but if you search on today's videos, somebody posted a link about you can actually check air flights, but you can also check cruises. Those in the southern oceans, they're not properly tracked. And it does say, it refers to GPS where available. So they're admitting that GPS is not a global positioning system, because we're not a globe. If we were a globe, GPS would cover every last inch of a planet if we lived on a planet as they describe it. So we know GPS doesn't exist.
Well, so the GPS has to be triangulated. So you have to have 3 spots.
Yeah. It is, but they're triangulating it on a flat Earth. So I think the information they're having to use it practically for day-to-day life for people from getting, from one place to another. We should assume these distances are pretty accurate. So if you get yourself a great big piece of paper and plot squares on it and get your airports, just do airports of the world, and start off with 3 as a starting point and then work around that, and you'll have a big montage. And then you can look at where it all fits together, and you'll have a fair idea of how the Earth looks. Tiger Dan's going to do it first, and hopefully he's going to say it's not going to work on the map he's got. So they're going to have to look for a different map, and I think it's going to turn out to be square. It could be something else, but there aren't too many other shapes that we could have, really, other than silly ones, So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if their dome doesn't fit over, the researched shape of the Earth, then they're going to have to come up with another dome shape. So they've probably made some contingency plans for that anyway, to give a different shaped dome over a different shaped Earth. Because they're watching everything we do. They're putting huge resources into the the gatekeeping of this, because 75% of the videos out there of any length, you listen to some of them and they're very professionally narrated. These aren't just people, in their mother's basement knocking this stuff out. This is, you can tell from the voices that they, they've been well scripted with the way they've been put together, and they're flooding the entire YouTube channels with this stuff to stop us seeing the good stuff. That's the objective of Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer, David Weiss, Eric Dubay, and the lot of them. All these big names, they are out there to flood the channels, so you'll watch them and you won't have time to look for anything else. The same as the mainstream media. They've got you watching the sport and the soap operas and the dramas, and the tragedies and all that sort of stuff, so you don't get to see what the real news is. And we've got the same in Flat Earth to sidetrack us away from what's really going on. But, there's a lot of people out there who can see through it, and they'll be doing some research. There's going to be a lot more people looking at it as sheer numbers. If they go mainstream with it, most of them may well buy into the official version of it, those who buy it anyway, but some of those are going to, not buy it, and they'll start looking into the other options out there. And, if they can put a good presentation together, then, we've got something to go on. That's what we need. We need.
Well, do you know how many people have watched that Vsauce video?
Oh, yeah, 10 million or something, is it?
Yeah. The debunking. Vsauce,
oh, yeah.
I've debunked everything. Flat Earth is insane. It's crazy. It's madcap. Okay. And so the whole idea, it also is, and I have found this on my own channel, people will ignore videos that don't have a very large view count. Okay. Or if they have a whole bunch of little thumbs down, the few thumbs up and a whole bunch of little thumbs down on them or whatever. And so they just blow by those because, well, it must not be very good, or this person's not very well known, or they'll look and they'll see, well, they only have, 362 subscribers. And then these hot dogs, okay, that are like Mark Sargent, who has, tens of thousands, Math Powerland, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, Dubay, then they get all the watches, okay? And so, and people will automatically always say first, yeah, when I first got involved in the Flat Earth, looking into it and everything, I watched all Dubay's stuff. I watched all Sargent stuff. I watched Math Powerland's videos. I may have found Wakey Wakey, or I may have found, I don't know, somebody. And then they like, I've watched everything. I've watched everything. Really?
Yeah.
No, you haven't watched everything. And a lot of the stuff that you're watching is programmed from the other stuff they watched. Okay. So they're like, oh, look at all the views they got off of that. So I'm going to mimic that or mirror that or copy it. I'm maybe even going to take their content and just mix it up like a mixer master. And then I'm going to put it back out there with my name on it. And I'm going to get a lot of views because it's their stuff. So the end of the day, okay, when 90% of the stuff is based on the same model and nobody's questioning the model, you might as well just slip your butt right back into the matrix and become a glober again, because you're just going from one false model, unproven model, to another unproven model without continuing to ask any questions. Okay. And people act like, well, I don't want to be contentious. I don't want to, be bold and just say, well, how do you know that? How did you prove that? Or show me your work, show me your worksheets, show me your notebooks, show me your thought pattern processes, show me your diary. I went out and I made one real-time video, and all I did was let the camera roll, and talk about what I thought I was seeing. That was my contribution to my own learning curve about the flat earth, okay? And it's been used in other people's videos. It's been, you know, talked about and on other channels and so on and so forth. But the raw footage spoke for itself, and it proved to me what I thought I was seeing. Do other people go and do that? I mean, how hard is it? Get in the car, drive to the beach if you live near one, drive to a flat place if you live near one, drive to a mountain if you live near one, and look at things and take some video of it and put it out there, okay? And even if you don't put it out there, do it for yourself. But while you're doing it, I want you to stand there and I want you to look up at the sky, not from your computer with a glass dome model sitting in front of you. Go outside and stand there and look at the sky and imagine this dome that everybody's talking about. Do it in the day, do it at night, do it at twilight. But for God's sakes, try to find a proof for it that isn't just scripture. I'm not denying that scripture says there's a firmament. It says that. But it said that so very long ago that what the word meant then, the translation to what the word has been convoluted into, not the same word.
Yeah, I think, you know, if we've got somebody who's actually managed to create this huge earth, you know, wherever it is, 20,000 miles across, 25,000 miles across, then they're going to be far more sophisticated than actually building a physical structure around it. You know, if they want to keep us enclosed, it would be something other than
a terrarium.
It's not going to be even something you can see. My own view, you know, and I'm looking into it every day, is that we're in something altogether which would be considered supernatural because it's beyond our, you know, something that we could put together ourselves. But I'm pretty sure that, you know, we're on some kind of infinite plane, but it doesn't go to other places. It's the same place, you know, repeated endlessly. And I think it's hidden in plain sight. You zoom out of Google Maps and you get multiple Earths. And how that fits in, I don't know. But you know, it's the only model I've got that fits at the moment. And I've got a compass for a Christmas present. So, you know, all of you who live in the Northern Hemisphere, you know, buy a compass, or Southern Hemisphere as well. But you know, get out down by the beach. If you can find a beach where you can actually get a good view of the sun in every direction, well, assuming that you can see it in every direction, get down on the beach and mark out north, south, and east and west with some great big pieces of tape or wood or whatever, so you can see where north, south, east, and west are. Get down to the beach at sunrise with your video camera. Let's see where the sun is, and then, you know, come back at noon, see where it is then, and sunset, and see how far around the sky the sun has actually gone. Because, you know, we're being told that, you know, at the North Pole, you can see the sun in all four corners of the sky, but none of the videos that come out have any reference point so that you can see it's doing that. And I've challenged them to do that on some of these YouTubes that come out there, and none of them have been able to provide any evidence that the sun is, you know, viewable from every direction. And somebody who would be a big help with this is my perspective. Now, I think that my perspective is genuine. And it's something that he could certainly do some good videos on regarding the sun and sundials, and how it, you know, how it would all fit together, and depict it with some good graphics. That needs to be done. You know, the sun is a big clue, and there's a lot of stuff going out about the zigzagging sun over that's been shown in the Arctic, but there's no time lapse on it in terms of the times. And it could well be the camera goes from, there's a 180-degree pan and then goes back to the left and picks it up again and it gets spliced together. It might not be a genuine 360-degree pan, and I've challenged them to prove that it is, and I've yet to see anything of that. It's a bit like chemtrails, when I was asking people to show me some real evidence that this stuff that you see in the sky is actually coming from planes and not something that's been painted in the sky. And nobody's come back with anything to date. You know, they just You know, they call me a shill or whatever for trying to debug chemtrails, but you know, that's how I see it.
Well,
There's
that's the problem, Lawrence. That's part of the problem with being a critical thinker. Okay, after a while, people go, you know, don't you believe anything? Do you have to question everything? It's like, yes, I do. Actually, I do. And, you know, I've always been that way, but I'm even way worse now because now I know I've been lied to. Before, I just thought no one wanted to tell me the answer. But now I know I've been lied to. So now I want the answer and I want heads to roll. Okay. People get mad about being lied to, and they just, you know, I want the truth. And then, but so, okay, that's just part of the answer to the question, the truth. What about the people who lied on purpose and the people who, you know, for crying out loud, presidents get impeached for lying. Nixon resigned for some people breaking into a hotel, okay, to sneak out sneak a peek at some documents. People do stuff like that every day now, and that's completely all right. The entire banking system is a lie, okay? And yet, no one ever says, you know, well, all I want is the truth. Okay, I want more than that. I want the truth, and then I want it to stop, and then I want those people to be either punished or put in the, hey, there's a use for your dome. Well, let's put those sons of bitches in a dome, prison dome, and leave them there till they run out of air. I don't know. I mean, there's not going to be any amount of I'm sorry. But here's the deal too. NASA's budget just got hugely increased. Okay, more than the president even asked for. I'm pretty sure it got voted on. So I might be talking a little prematurely, but what are they going to do with all that money that they haven't already done? Nobody's got a trip planned to the moon. They want to go to Mars. Okay, we all know that that's ridiculous. We know that it's a lie, and yet there's people out there sucking it up right and left. I mean, I go on these. Brian Cox just called everybody. That was another one this week. Talk about This Week in Flat Earth. A whole bunch of us spent some time over on Professor Brian Cox's Facebook page because he called us some horrible name, you know, shit nozzle or something. I don't even know what it was, but it was pretty horrible. And so a whole bunch of flat earthers went on there and, you know, did our little battle, and you wouldn't believe after that, all these people I've never seen or heard before sent me these, you know, inbox messages that are like, you have to accept them now if you don't know them as a friend, sending me CGI videos of the space station flying around from 2007. Like I haven't already seen this garbage, okay? Like, oh, I'm just an idiot flat earther and I didn't do any research whatsoever. I just heard about it and it was trending so cool. I think I'll just become one. I think I want to spend the rest of my life being called madcap and be made fun of. People don't choose that. That's not a thing you choose to do unless you really are an idiot, okay? And then I think you would be able to tell that this person is not one of those people, okay? I'm not an idiot. I speak perfect English. I've, you know, been through school. I've done all kinds of research on my own. I probably know more about history and nature and a whole bunch of other things than 90% of people out there. And yet I'm madcap because I question that if I can't find this curvature, then how can I accept that I live on a spinning globe? If I don't live on a spinning globe, then what is outer space? If there's no outer space, then what the hell are you people doing with all that money and all those people and all those, programs? NOAA, NASA, and ESSA, and RASA, and it just goes on and on and on. There's like hundreds of them. Okay, so question everything? Absolutely. People ask me this. Somebody posted this week. I homeschool my children. Should I talk to my children about the flat earth? And how should I do it? And all these people in the group, gave advice. And I said, you don't have to teach them the earth is flat. You only have to teach them to question everything. If you do that, if you introduce them to critical thinking skills and what it means and how important it is for the rest of your life, then they'll figure the rest of it out on their own. You could play them a YouTube video about flat earth. You could let them read a story or an article about it. There's plenty, and I'm sure for kids. But here's the thing. Your responsibility as a parent is to attempt to teach them the truth. If you don't know what the truth is, then at least teach them to question everything. So anyway, sorry, I did it again. I do it all the time. I'm sorry. The less people there are talking, the more I talk. Talk for a minute.
Yeah, well, the schools is a big issue, obviously, because as this so-called movement grows, then, more and more children are going to, in inverted commas, become flat earthers, and they're going to go to school and disagree with the teacher. The teacher tells you how it is. It's not really up for debate in schools these days. This is how it is, and this is what we're going to teach you. But we're going to get some children saying, I don't agree, and hopefully they're going to have debates in classrooms about it. It's inevitable at some stage, and people, when they move through the grades in school into higher classes and stuff like that, then it's going to come up again. The same with all science, because it seems that a lot of the basics of science is fraudulent, the whole lot, and history as well. I mean, we looked at Copernicus, which means it's an anagram of open circus. He could have been just written into the history books, as far as I'm concerned. I think he's a made-up character. We know Mercator was real because the map still exists to today, the original maps. I'm sure they're in some museum in Italy or somewhere, as is his original globes. And Mercator was making globes before Copernicus died. So how is Copernicus attributed with saying the Earth was a globe to bring it into the mainstream of Earth, when Copernicus was, Mercator was actually making globes? That was one of his jobs. He made it out of these plates. He was making it before, and other people were making them before. Copernicus actually had his so-called book released. So checking out the backstories of history and finding out the glaring errors that are out there, that would be one for me, that it doesn't tie up with the story that they're giving us, their backstories. It's the same with the characters in Flat Earth. Mark Sargent doesn't have a backstory that you can check out because he's got no Facebook account. He's got his story about when he was involved in making fireworks at college and selling them on a big scale. And it was a very interesting story, but for me, he's just made it up. Same as Patricia Steer. You look at all her back history. She doesn't even know when her mother died. She doesn't even know how old she was. She thinks I was 4 then when she was 3, and then on her mother's death and her father's death, the date of their parents' marriage one was 1958 and the other was, I think, 1966. So I challenged her about that, and then she blocked me, but she answered the question by saying, oh yes, my parents they got divorced and remarried. If you want to believe that, you'll believe anything. She was just thinking on the foot there, what's the best excuse I can come up with for that? Because you can look at some of her pictures and she's there with her father. So maybe as a small child, she was with her father, and her father had custody of her as a small child, which in 99% of cases, it's always the mother that gets custody of the children, unless there's a very good reason. Not, they always go, I know you get some that go with the father these days, but back in the 1960s, it was going to be always the mother that looks after the children. The fathers, they go somewhere else. So
well, look at it this way, Lawrence. there's no doubt in my mind that there are people in the flat earth movement who, in the flat earth community, who are not real people, who are not real flat earthers. Whether she or DeBay or Sargent or Math Powerland or any of those people are real people or not. I mean, they're obviously real people because they've been in videos and so on and so forth. I mean, somebody accused Kristen, who was on the show last week, of actually being Math Powerland in the group last night. Oh, you're probably just Math Powerland with a fake account. And I'm like, my God, she was on the show last week. She's a real person, okay? Yeah. How could she? And she talked, and she made a lot of sense, better than Math sometimes, many times. So, to accuse people of not being real people, that's one thing. To accuse people of being agents or whatever the word shield supposed to represent, which I still to this day am amazed that word even got into the conversation, because a shill literally is a person who comes into the con to try to lead people into the con. Okay, that's what a shill is. And so, if who or any of these people are agents or shills or cons or whatever, to me, doesn't matter unless they start getting a following. When they start getting a following, then you have to question, is this person a Pied Piper? And that is a legitimate term. A Pied Piper is someone whose purpose is to lead people into a specific direction or away from a specific direction, okay? And in Mark Sargent's case, I consider him a Pied Piper. I've called him a gatekeeper, but it's come to pass because he's led a lot of people into the dome, under the dome. Isn't that what the name of the article said? Under the dome? Yeah, under the dome. Flat earthers say we live under a huge glass dome. Okay, that's the headline. Now, look me in the eye and listen to my words. And as that despicable man George Bush used to say, read my lips. I don't dome, okay? And nobody else should dome unless they understand what they're getting into. Because once it becomes flat earthers believe in a dome, okay? Once that becomes the script, then you can no longer, if you don't buy the dome, you can no longer call yourself a flat earther. You're ejected. You're fringe, okay? Because all the people believe, all the flat earthers believe in a dome, and you're going to be this lonely little voice in the wilderness who says, but no, there's no dome. And no one will hear you because it will be too late, because the dome is sealed over the top of this thing and it ain't coming off, okay? And it becomes a circle map with a dome plopped over the top of it, and that is your flat earth, okay? And if you try to go and talk to somebody a year from now or 6 months from now, and they say, I've seen your posts on Facebook about you're a flat earther. So you buy into this whole dome thing? No, that part I don't buy into. Well, what part do you buy into? Well, I mean, I buy into the earth is flat. Oh, well, so you think it's a big circle and it's got an ice wall around the outside and that's what holds it in? Well, I don't know. I've never seen the ice wall, so I'm not really sure about that. Well, what part are you sure of? Why are you calling yourself a flat earther when you can't explain it? Well, I can explain this much of it, but I can't explain. Well, how does it, and what about the sun and the moon and the stars? And well, I don't know about that. Okay. So then you look pretty madcap. Now you're in the madcap category. Okay. Because you believe in something that you don't know how to explain and you don't know what it means. Okay. And the media now has explained it for you. And just like they even used the term Flat Earth Society. I'm not a member of the Flat Earth Society. The Flat Earth Society is a bunch of bitches. They have screwed this thing up worse than anybody that I could imagine. They've been there since the 50s, okay, or whenever they got started. And their whole premise is like stupid crap, like, you know, they even have on the front of their thing that boat falling off the edge of a flat earth with water leaking off and everything. I mean, get real. So what they've done is they've tied us to that bunch. They've tied us to the dome. They've tied us to Mark Sargent's Enclosed World. They've tied us to Eric Dubay, and he's a spokesman. And like we've been seeing for weeks, and we sound like broken records, the next thing that happens is you're going to turn on CNN and you're going to see happy little Mark Sargent with his, you know, with his little enclosed world dome.com you know, presentation. He'll probably have a model by then. It'll probably be some mock-up, and he'll be standing around this table like trains and shit will be going around in circles in this dome thing, and trees and ice around the edge, and for God's sake, and sun's going around in circles over the top, and here's the moon and the stars twinkling through this dome. And I mean, I already see it. It's already in the can, probably. As a matter of fact, he's been holding out on Flat Earth Clues 13 for months. Okay, now I'm not going to release it until we get to the critical mass trending point. Okay, because it's for that. What do you think it is? It's the dome. It's the system, and he's going to, you know, roll it out and suck in a bunch of more new third and fourth waivers coming into the flat earth community. We're in the fourth wave now, okay? The first wave is people like Lawrence and people like me who kind of figured it out organically and then started you know, investigating. The second wave was early this summer. The people that we started telling about it to our Facebook friends and our family and and a few friends, and they started seeing it in our Facebook posts, and they started researching. The third wave came in October and they were people who really got to the point where they were seeing it a little too much to ignore it anymore. The fourth waivers are going to come in now because it's trending, because that's all they're hearing about, and also because it's hitting mainstream news. So
it is.
Should I, you know, do I protest too much? Absolutely not, because I don't want to have to say, oh, I'm no longer a flat earther because I don't believe in the dome. Now what am I? We're going to have another level, flat earth 0.2? Am I a 0.1 and they're 0.2s? You know, what? It's not that I don't want to believe in a dome. It's not that I can't believe in a dome. I don't believe in anything I can't see, touch, feel, hear, or find some sort of evidence or observation of. And I have none of that.
Yeah, I think we've got all the tools on the ground to construct a model. Just a question of, you know, somebody spending the time and, you know, enough software so they can put it all together. So I think we can construct a model of where we are on the ground, not above, because everything above is perspective. And as far as I'm concerned, the stuff that's moving across the sky, all of it's moving in a straight line. And if it appears to bend in time lapse, then for me, that's just the bending of light. But all the main, the YouTubers have been flooded with stuff about the sun, the moon, the stars, and you get so much, you know, I mean, you just get so much of this stuff, and people arguing the toss this way, that way, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, this star, that star, constellations, arguing the toss about it, and, you know, there's enough proof on the ground to prove it's flat. You don't need to argue the toss about the stars. You know, they'll take care of themselves, whatever they may be. So the stage is set now, because most of the flat earthers who are out there now, they'll know everything. You're going to know everything there is if you're taking this stuff in and doing some research. Within a few months, you'll have watched everything there is worth watching, and then the issue becomes something else. It is, it's going to boil down to what is the model? Where are we? Where are the boundaries, if there are any? Is this supernatural? How does it work? And that is going to be that versus the false model that we're inevitably going to get on, CNN and Fox News, with Mark Sargent giving his version, telling the world, that we're in a Truman Show world. We're locked in by aliens because we're evil, and we start wars and things like that. And we're locked in here for our own good, to keep us away from everybody else. And that's going to be the big battle, because at the moment it's small numbers who are fighting against this, and most of the so-called truthers out there are nothing more than gatekeepers. Some of them I'm not sure about, and I hope time will tell whether they're genuine or not, because this is a big issue now. So I want to see Tiger Dan put his cards on the table about stuff. I've asked him questions about sundials, which he hasn't answered me yet, and lots of people about the sundials, which does prove that the sun is moving in a straight line. Nobody will answer the question. They just say they don't know about it, but it's all out there for them to see, and you can do your own experiments with it. You could if you're on the equator or between those lines of latitude, but you can do your own. If you can probably do it. Somebody will do a mock-up somewhere in a big garage and get some lights and some sundials and see what does happen with it. The sun moving in various directions. Then you get people throwing other stuff into the mix, saying that there are other forces out there which bend the light this way, bend it that way, bend it all around the edge of the Earth, about around the dome. So that's giving you the 24 hours of daylight now in Antarctica. Anything other than the model that we've been sold is the wrong one. They won't look at that as an option. It's got to be something else, because that doesn't fit their what they've been paid to promote, or my program to promote them. There's so many people out there who are working for the other side. So we're the minority who just want to know the truth of where we are, and out of our own curiosity as much as anything else, but for the benefit of mankind. Because if this goes through and we're stuck with this new version for the next 500 years, then it's more of the same, isn't it? Which we don't want. We need a new world, a free society where you can go anywhere you please. And we don't have to work for it.
What I said earlier about those people, all these people that are living in these refugee camps all over the world, they're not all living in refugee camps because their country is in war. I mean, there's famines and floods and all kinds of reasons that they become homeless, and they're put into these camps always as some sort of.
That's engineered, Laurie, isn't it?
And it turns.
They're engineering it.
What?
Yeah. They're engineering it, because all these camps, some of them, they build like 150,000 of these tin shacks. So some of them are, more than tents, and they live in accommodation. But they're just lining them all up like little models. But they're building like hundreds of thousands of them at the time. But these things have been built well in advance of the trouble that caused them to become refugees in the first place. So it's obvious that these crises to make them refugees has been engineered by the very same people that control the refugee camps. It's all part of their game. They need to move these people out for whatever reason. Maybe they do want to get us all in.
People aren't allowed to be nomads. They're not allowed to freely travel around the world anywhere. They're not even able to go across a border to another country that has some land that they could farm or fish or whatever, because of all of the flags and all of the nation states and all of the boundaries and all of the laws of this country and that country, and we don't want your people and you don't want our people, and we don't want to be at war with you, but yet we're warring all the time. And this is what the Hunger Games concept boils down to. You're trapped here, you live in this location, and the elites are able to travel from here to there, but you're not. You're in prison. You're in a prison camp that's very large. That's what these. They may as well be concentration camps. These refugee camps. I mean, millions and millions of people are stuck in one place, and they have no idea what all is going on the rest around the world. I mean, they don't have electricity. They don't have running water. I mean, the more and more and more people that you put into that position, the less that are going to question. People like you and me who have the ability to question for the rest of them, okay, have a responsibility to do so, I feel. And so that's part of what this whole flat earth thing means to me. I mean, I used to be a classic normal person with, maybe some conspiracy theory ideas, and did a lot of research and looked into a lot of things, and was, snoopy and nosy and wanted to know what happened in the past and in the history and who's been zooming who and who's lying to who. And until I found flat earth. Now it's like I don't have an extra minute of time to just be a person and just enjoy my life in oblivion. Because now I've got this Joan of Arc save the world complex, that there's only a limited amount of time, the window's closing, and tick tock, and if the truth is going to come out, it has to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. It can't be just another version of the truth, because we didn't gain anything. I'm not doing this for my health. I'm losing sleep. I got bags under my eyes. My hair's turning gray by the day. I've got less friends than I ever had before, not because I'm a flat earther, but because I don't have time to go hang out and just have drinks and be friends. And so why? Because I'm convinced that there's this very small window of approximately a year. And that was when I got started. I thought it was a year. That was back in, February or March of 2015. Now we're close to that in 2016. So my year's running out, and here it is. Now everything I predicted and everything that I thought it was going to roll out the way it did is rolling out that way. I've told it to people. I've explained it to people. And it's like, oh, what are you so worried about? What's going to change? What's, how's it going to matter? In my life, it already sucks the way it was compared to when I was a kid to where it is now. So it's like major suckage. I don't have that much longer here. Maybe 20 years if I'm lucky. Okay. And, but I'd like that 20 years not to be living in Hunger Games. And I don't want to live under some falsified enclosed dome that I know doesn't exist, because that's just going to make me want to tear my hair out even more. I'm better off thinking I live on a globe I can't get off of than to live under a dome I can't get out from. Okay. And it's a fictitious dome. Okay. Even if it is a dome, what if it's a dome that is like 400,000 miles that direction from where I am right now, from where I'm sitting, and 300,000 miles in that direction, and several hundred thousand? That's big. Okay. All the people that are in the world right now can fit in the state of Texas. They can fit in the country of Australia, in Queensland, I believe. Okay. They'd be pretty much elbow to asshole, as they call it, but they fit. So that means all the rest of the world would be empty of humans. Okay. That's a lot of space right now. Imagine if there's more. But even if there isn't more, if they're going to roll out that aliens created this so that some big transformer looking alien giant creature comes waltzing out of this Antarctica, and breathes and sounds like Darth Vader and says, we created this world and we think you humans are, you know, what was it Mr. Smith called us? Bacteria, a virus on this planet. Then we're really...
They've already done. Yeah, they've already sowed the seeds for that, Laurie, with the Disclosure Project, which has been out, whatever, 20 years or so, and you've got all these people coming forward, and you get into all these stories about aliens disabling sort of nuclear bunkers and things like that. You know, so that's part of the cover story to say that we're dangerous and we shouldn't be allowed out of wherever it is we are. So, you know, the story's all coming together now as to what the plan is. It's just how it's going to fall into place. And obviously they're going to have to react to what's going out on social media. But as I say, they're monitoring it. They're watching this probably right now, and because they want to know what we're thinking, and then the other people, they monitor everything. You know, they watch every video that comes out.
I have had people say that. I have had people say that to me, Lawrence. You guys are making a mistake by putting this all out there.
Well, what else can you? Unless you've got a secret network to put it out to, then you know who's going to listen? So yeah, that's the you know, we can only use their systems to communicate. We don't have a private system of our own. That's yeah, you're cutting out a bit.
Yeah. So anyway, enough about death, doom, and destruction of you know where we're here as a siren or a warning system or Danger Will Robinson or any of that stuff. That's not my point. My point is that and I think our point, and anyone who also has the strength at this point to say, wait, there's no proof of the dome. We're starting to get outnumbered, okay, already. And not that I have ever had a problem with being wrong and admitting that I'm wrong. Never had a problem with that. I don't like it. Nobody does. I don't enjoy going, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. I was wrong. But I will do it, and I'll do it wholeheartedly if I'm proven wrong, okay? But to be told to shut up because we're causing distraction, to be told that that we're making a division in the flat Earth community is not going to shut me up, and it's not going to shut Lawrence up, and it's not going to shut up a whole lot of other people who are a little shyer, perhaps, than Lawrence or I. I've never had that problem. I've never been shy a day in my life. And not that there's anything wrong with being shy. There's plenty of people that are, and they prefer to sit over there and be quiet. They say something, they mean it. And they don't waste any words. You know, they've had a lot of time to think about it. They've sucked it up, a lot of stuff. And then when they talk, they mean big business. I listen to those people. I value and appreciate those kind of people. The problem is that they come in my inbox and tell me that, or message me from the website online, and don't really have the inclination to become public about it. So there's nothing wrong with keeping questioning the flat Earth, because we're so far from having all the answers that it's ridiculous. Okay, we're like, first you learn to crawl, then you learn to walk, then you learn to run. We're like little babies who just like don't have any muscle movement at all. We haven't even flipped over in the crib yet. Okay, that's how immature this whole thing is.
Yeah, I know, and now it's pretty clear that this is going mainstream. It'll be drip fed, but ultimately we'll have some spokesperson speaking on behalf of the flat Earth community, who's probably a gatekeeper, going on telling them how it all is, and then it will get bigger, and more people will know, and more people will start looking at it. So they're running you know, they don't know how it's going to pan out. They don't know how people are going to interpret this stuff. I mean, if they come out and tell us that the world is flat after all, but even a false version, why are they, you know, people need to say, well, you know, how do we know that they're giving us the correct version? You've lied about everything else. How do we know we're not lying about this? But a lot of people would, you know, if it's shown on the TV, they're just going to believe it, because most people have very short attention spans these days. That's how it is. People can't read, you know, books and stuff like that. Most people won't, well, unless it's just, you know, pure trash. But people won't read stuff that's dry, you know, to try and get to the bottom of the story. Because, you know, a lot of this research that you do can be quite time-consuming and boring, but we need more of it, and we need to pull it all together and get a framework about how all this, you know, let's go back as far as we can with verifiable information, not stuff that they've told us, stuff that we can verify for ourselves and see what the facts are. You brought some maps up.
I want to try this screen share. Can you see this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I just Googled flat Earth map projection. Okay. And as you can see, there's everything from the map that you've shown with this Antarctica across the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, okay, hold on. Let me go to this screen. Okay, can you see that? Is the whole map there?
Yeah, that's the one I would go for. That's the one I think it is.
So that's under the Google projection of a flat Earth map right there. Okay. Yeah. Here's another one. That's the classic azimuthal equidistant projection right there. Okay. Here's a drawing or a painting that someone's done. Here is it's also azimuthal. Let me go to this one. This one is, how do I use globes and maps? Let me see what this image is. Oh, that's the globe, only just spread out flat. Okay. So the idea is when you have this many different maps, here's a flat Earth map from who knows, very, very long time ago. And this is interesting. This has all these gates around the outside with the they're all angels and they're blowing the winds. And so when you look, here's another flat Earth map. These are all considered flat Earth maps because they're flat, because they're one-dimensional flat. Okay, not because they're accepted models. And therein lies the difference. Because if you just only see one, and that's the one that's repeated, that is propaganda. That's called propaganda, is the repeating to the point where you're brainwashed, okay? And you accept that as true, and your option A and A. And if you break out of that spell and Google for yourself, and see that, oh my gosh, look at these other options I didn't even know were available. I mean, that's like so basic, step one, that most people, you know, they call themselves, they believe that the Earth is flat, but they haven't taken a step beyond that, other than maybe getting in a group and watching some videos and you know, and talking to some other people, which is great. The camaraderie and the community and finding those that, you know, have like minds and so on is awesome. But if you're not contributing anything to your education about flat Earth, if you're not, you know, cracking a book, in other words, you just sit there and get the cheat sheet, and then you take the test and you go, haha, you know, I got an A in flat Earth because the dome, whatever, okay? Then you really aren't any farther ahead than or you're only a little farther ahead than you were when you lived on the globe. Now you're just another a flat Earth sheeple now, okay? And if that sounds harsh, my apologies, but that's the truth, because until you have your own understanding where you can understand, learn something, and then regurgitate it back to somebody, okay, in your own words. Not like Eric Dubay, where it's like sounds like a little robot going na 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 na. Okay, he says the same things over and over, like he's reading off of cards, which he is. Okay, that's why he sounds so confident. That's why he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. That's why you follow him, because there's a leader. You know, it's the same thing with Sargent. He's regurgitating information. He's regurgitating the same repeated stuff. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard him say, we live in an enclosed world like the Truman Show. I mean, I've heard him say it a bunch, okay? But where did it happen that he was selected to be the guy who was interviewed or represented on some of the first mainstream articles to come out about the flat earth and what it's about? Okay, if somebody would have asked Lawrence, what is the flat earth and what is it about, Lawrence, it would have been a totally different thing. Okay, if somebody would have asked me, it would have been a totally different thing than from what Mark Sargent said and what Eric Dubay said, or what they said he said. They may not even interviewed either one of them. They may have just picked it up all off of their websites.
Yeah, I think they're scripted. It seems to me they're scripted, and they just keep churning out the same stories. They don't bring anything new to the table, and anything that you come up with that goes against them, they just send out more people to make anti-videos to what you've actually said. And it's happening with this show. Since we started, trying to get the real truth out over the past few weeks, there's been a large increase in the number of videos that have been put out to reinforce their model, and the numbers are growing, and we're being deluged with volumes of stuff that is making it difficult for people to find new information. So and they're putting stuff out that flat water, who's going for the traditional flat earth model that Eric Dubay and co are going for. I say he's put out over 100 videos, and some of them are 4 hours long. So people are going to, if they watch this stuff, they're not going to have time to watch anything else. And obviously Google have got some responsibility here, because they're probably going to bring all their stuff up to the top. So if you want to find the good stuff, you're going to have to keep panning down the pages and look for it, or put some keywords in to find out what you're looking for. But you can still find it, because some people spend all day doing it, looking for something new. And if you do it on a daily basis, you'll get just what's come out that day. And that's probably a good way I go through it every day. So I look through every, listing every day. I go through, maybe 100 or so, and I watch a fair few of them. You've got to watch them just to see if make sure you don't miss anything. And I found out that a lot of the ones that are coming out now, they're too professional to be just done by amateurs. They've been put out to reinforce the false model. There'll be more and more. They've got unlimited resources to do it. So, they stand out a mile the way they do it, because they're like, it's the same sort of voice quality that you would get on a professional documentary. And that this hasn't been done by somebody sat in his mother's basement with his laptop, knocking it out with a few graphics. That's what we're up against, because they will put so much junk out there that the good stuff is going to get hidden. So, but if we find anything, we can bring it to the show, and stuff is going to come to the surface. There's a lot of people out there looking at this now out of curiosity, because it's human nature to know where we live, and we don't know. We don't know what it is now, and it's going to be difficult to get if the true picture becomes something that is supernatural. That's going to make it a whole lot harder for us to get that out there, because people are going to find it hard to buy into. But if that's the truth, that's the truth. It's fascinating, really, isn't it? And we're not actors, Laurie. We're real people. We're not actors. We're using our real name.
Yeah, we're real people. We're not actors.
You can check my back history. You can look at my Facebook page for the past 4 or 5 years, and all my stuff's on there. you know, and then people have tried to probably dig the dirt on us, but they can't find anything. Or if they had, they would put it out there, but there's nothing to find. So,
well, the only thing they found that Eric's little people found on me was, you know, that he accused me of a former politician, and which I think is pretty hilarious because, yeah, I ran for office a couple times on a community level in when I lived in Indiana. And it's pretty funny because I lost. So you can't really call yourself a politician if you never won. But what's interesting about that, I was like, oh, really? Is that all you got? I mean, come on. You're going to use that to put me on the shill wall of shame because you're pissed off because I bought the domain name flatearthconspiracy.com and you didn't buy it and you wrote a book with that title and I didn't know it, but it wasn't. It was available when you wrote your book. And so, you know, you're right. Our lives are, I mean, I've got all my stuff public on my Facebook page. I mean, I'm one of those really crazy people who doesn't matter who sees it. I mean, you can see my past, my artwork, my family. The only thing I hide is the amount of friends that I have, so people can't dig around in my friends list because that's none of their business. And my birthday, I don't publish that, not because I am trying to hide my age, but because for a couple of years there, when it was on there, every time it was my birthday, there would be all these people wishing me happy birthday and all of my cool shit would get buried. And, you know, I'm like, people want to come and see my conspiracy theory stuff and it's all covered up with all of the happy birthdays. So pardon me, I'm not a happy birthday celebrator. So I don't have it up there. But what's true and what's real is that you and I and other people, it's not just you and I, but a lot of people have the courage to admit to the world that we don't buy the old story of the you know, that we live on a spinning globe. And we've started investigating flat Earth and found that it to be true, or at least the spinning globe isn't true. You know, the flat Earth might go like this and this and this, but for the most part, it's all on one level. I mean, we live on the first floor. There's like second, third, and fourth floor, whatever going on overhead, and none of us have been there and come back to tell about it. The only one that I know of, two, was Enoch and Jesus. Those are the only two people who historically can say that they left this level and went to a higher one, okay, and came back. So what goes on underneath this level, down in the basement, where it's really hot and hell-like, apparently, I've not been there either, thank you God, and I hope I don't ever go there, but how can you have hell? How can you have heaven if you live on a spinning globe? I mean, where is it? It's up. Okay, so where's up when you live on a 360-degree ball? There's no up. Okay, so how can you agree that there is, you know, a creation story and the biblical scripture that explains it, and go from there to we live in a dome, okay? And aren't you going to be pissed off when they come marching out with the dome and say that no, God did? There's no God. There's gods. The gods created it, and they seeded this planet with you people, you know, thousands of years ago. And there's been civilizations that have come before you, and there'll be civilizations when we destroy you and start again because we're the creators. Okay, what are you going to do then? You're going to be ticked off that you went with the dome because now you got nothing. You got nothing to back the creation story because you put it all in that basket of this dome. And you know, I don't know whether there is or isn't a dome. That's the whole point, and neither do you. And neither does the news media, and neither does Mark Sargent, and neither does, you know, any of the other people making the models, Rob Skiba and anybody else with their terrariums and their snow globes and their domes. And they don't know either. Okay. If they do, show me the evidence, show me the money. Okay. And, but they're either playing into the hands of those who are going to take us from living on the outside of the ball to living on the inside of one, or they're being paid or propped up to put this information out there. Now that's up to them to deny or to declare, and they're not going to declare it. So, you know, I'm a free person. I'm free to say whatever I want to say, and that's where my conclusions lead me.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. I mean, they can put out whatever version they like, but because if the whole world gets to know of it, then the number of people looking at it and questioning it is going to be immense. So the true nature of where we live will come to light. Somebody will come up with the correct version, ultimately, that makes sense and is demonstratable with real evidence. That's going to happen. And it's just a question of how many people get to know about the correct version, because we all know about the money scam, but not many people know about it. You know, people don't believe that money is literally created out of thin air. And if you tell a banker that the people who work in the banks, they think you're crazy. You know, so it may well be that we do get to find out where we really are, but the majority of people are under some false impression that we're somewhere else. That may happen. It depends on the forces that are out there, how they're going to impact on it, because there are forces for good out there. That's why we got told about it and why we're speaking out about it. There is a force for good, force for evil, and the evil people are the gatekeepers of this new phenomena. They're out there to sell the false model and to lead people down the false path, which will then be mirrored by the newspapers and the television programs that ultimately are going to be coming out on it. And it will get very big, you know, in the foreseeable future. I don't know what the timescale is going to be, but, you know, if it's hit mainstream newspapers, then it will hit more, and the stories will get repeated and, you know, touched up and modified to meet their needs, you know, as things develop, because they're going to have to react to what social media is putting out to make sure that more people believe their version than ours. So we're the minority. We're the troublemakers. We're the ones out here who are dividing the community.
You can guarantee they're not going to ask you or me what to put on the mainstream report of what is the flat Earth. I'll guarantee you that. They're not going to be asking you or me.
They won't, and these people who are in the forefront now, they'll just vanish in a couple of years. You'll never hear of them again, because they are actors. They are acting out their role in this thing. They are somebody else, so they've got a life to go back to. They don't exist. They don't live lives as those people, you know, other than the role that they're playing at the moment, which is, they're probably broadcasting from studio. If you look at where some of these videos come out of, they don't look like disheveled homes. They don't have piles of dirty clothing waiting to go in the washing machine and a load of dirty dishes in the background. Take a look at my kitchen.
I got all that too. I got a closet behind me. I'm in my bedroom, and that's why the screen is always behind me.
You know, this is my kitchen. Beneath that, got dirty dishes everywhere because it's been Christmas, and this is the kitchen. It's not a studio set, and people.
Oh, you crack me up.
You saw Patricia Spear's home, and it was like a new home showroom. Everything was immaculate, polished, not a single thing out of place. And then she said she wanted to show the fourth wall, and she couldn't. She got a mirror. She couldn't even pick her laptop up and turn around. Why didn't she do that?
I don't know.
No idea. Well, as far as I'm, they're broadcasting from some studio somewhere.
Here's the deal. I hate to even bring up anybody's name anymore, because I get accused of, you're just jealous, or you're just mad because you're not a flat earth rock star or whatever. And you know, nothing could be farther from the truth. I'm about as big a flat earth rock star as I would ever hope to be, just because I'm not a person who you know, likes being in the limelight. I mean, I've had plenty of opportunities to do that, and I walk away from it every time. But here's what's important to me, and I guess this is what makes me a flat earth purist, in any sense of the term purist, and that is, I'm only willing to repeat back that which I have seen with my own eyes, or proven to myself, and can show something to back it up. Okay. If I told somebody that my backyard was full of fir trees and had a babbling brook running down through it, and birds singing and squirrels hopping and bunny rabbits, then I would have to be prepared to walk out there with my camera and say, here's my backyard. And it better be like that. Okay. And that, to me, is what putting out these theories it represents. You know, Patricia got mad and said, you think you're blocked. I'm blocked by a whole bunch of people, and it's okay. But she got mad because, you know, she said, Mark's just putting it out as a theory. No, it's not even a theory. It's not even a theory. It's a hypothesis. It's a dream. It's a dreamscape in his head. He has no evidence to back it up, and he'll be the first to admit that. I mean, lava pumps, pumping lava. How are they going to pull that off under this dome? How are they going to pull off earthquakes? I mean, that you know, that shit really happens. We really have earthquakes. We have tsunamis. We have hurricanes. You know, we have serious, real, you know, weather and events that happen on Earth that would have to be created by some malevolent gods, aliens, whatever, who just want to wipe out a bunch of people randomly. Oh, I think, you know, let's put a little tornado over here. Ploop, there's a tornado, and then, you know, 120 people got killed, and, you know, let's wipe out Japan again. You know, we already did that once or twice, so let's do it again, and, you know, blow it out of the water with a tsunami and wash everybody away, and then have some nuclear plant, you know, problem in the long run. I mean, just, you could go on and on and on with this. Let's flood this place. Let's cause a landslide over here. Do people really believe that there's, you know, that there's systems that are running this stuff? That this isn't actually a created nature that's happening, and that humans are capable of manipulating this stuff? Get real. I mean, it's just not realistic. Any more realistic than we got on a rocket and we flew out into outer space, or we sent some freaking probe out to Mars or Pluto and took pictures. It's not, and it's going to come to pass that it's not possible. But bring her back in. These theories that people are coming up with for explanations about how this works and that works and this works, they're dreams, they're imagination. They might as well be Stanley Kubrick making, you know, 2001: A Space Odyssey. They can't. It's all theater. It's all acting. It's all scripts. And that dome, in my opinion, that one that Mark Sargent just got headlines nationally, and now you can call it internationally, because his name's not in the headline, but he is in the content of the articles, as the flat earth belief system, as the flat earth theory. If you don't buy that, then, you know, there's only one thing you can do. You have to come out and say, no, Mark Sargent's making shit up, or Mark Sargent's not correct, and Mark Sargent can't prove, you know, and neither can Eric Dubay, their hypothesis, their theory, their imaginary world, any more than one that I make up. I mean, you know, like next week I could come up with some fantastical made up thing, or I could sit around for, you know, 72 or 140 hours and draw and mold and, you know, what about this? I got to have an answer for that and an answer for this and an answer for that. And I could come up with all kinds of better than lava pumps. I'm sorry, but I really could. That's where we're headed as Flat Earth. If you have any responsibility to the future of the movement, to the future of the community, to the new people that are coming in, that they're going to walk in as untainted an environment as you walked into close to a year ago or 6 months ago, then you have to come out and say, sorry, this dome thing needs to get out of our vocabulary. It needs to stop. And because otherwise the media is going to take it and they're going to run with it.
One thing that's just sprung into my thoughts, Laurie, is that, you know, Tiger Dan's going to make a new map of the world. And in his presentation about this new map, he said he brought up the Mercator map, and he got Russia on one side of the map and the United States on the other, and that was his reason why that map was not acceptable, because in reality there's only like 50 miles between the two of them. So if you're going to do the project justice, Tiger, in addition to your circular map, you want to go for a map that's got where you can fly east and west and get to the destination. So ideally you want to get 3 Mercator maps and line them up horizontally, so that your flight journeys can go either way. They can go east or west, any direction you like, rather than restricting it to the confines of the four sides of a square. And then you may well get, you know, a more accurate depiction of where we are. And if anybody's watching this, you know, just get yourself 3 Mercator maps. If you've got a large, you know, table in the kitchen or somewhere in the house, get them all lined up. And then go and start, you know, triangulating all the airports in the world that you can actually corroborate with evidence of flight times, direct flight times. Because if you're looking at 500 mile an hour as an average speed, then you're going to get a fairly accurate relationship between the airports of the world. And I think that's a brilliant idea to use airports. I've been thinking about, you know, using flight routes for a long time as the best evidence that we have to work out, you know, where we are and which way everything goes. And that's going to come out. Somebody's going to do it, because curiosity is what drives humans. We're always curious about finding the stuff that they don't want to tell us, and we're going to dig it out eventually. They're not going to stop us. You know, somebody out there, there's so many people out there now who are looking at this. You know, it's relentless, and the amount of stuff coming through is relentless as well, albeit a lot of dross that's been forced upon us, so that it makes it difficult to sort out the good stuff. But there's some good stuff out there, and some of it's, you know, they may only get a couple of hundred views out there, but, you know, people will find this stuff and put it out there. And that's where you know, that's how we're going to move on. And then at least we've got, you know, a workable model that we can counter people with. And if we can prove with evidence that things are totally different to what they say we are, then we've got something to work with. We haven't got anything at the moment, you know, other than what they're giving us doesn't fit. You know, there's so many anomalies with it. It doesn't fit. And, you know, talking about stars and stuff like that isn't really going to help, because, you know, we can't go up there and take a look and see what's up there. You know, we can only work on what's down at ground level, and that's, you know, we need to get the best model we can from at ground level and put it together, and then make sure people know about it.
You know, one of the best things I like to do, Lawrence, is not watch new flat Earth videos that are pretty much repetitive and, you know, the same. I like to go to these people's websites or YouTube channels that come on my channel and comment and say, you know, well, what about this and what about that? I've got this debunking video and I'll show you. So I go watch and I see, you know, where their objections are, And most of the time I agree with them. It's interesting. Like the guy that you gave me the video, who said the projection of the sun going around on how long it took in the southern hemiplane for the sun couldn't still be there because now it's over here in 24 hours. You know that guy?
Yeah.
You know, he was right. He was absolutely right. And, you know, I can't fault somebody for finding a flaw. I have to listen to the findings, and I have to say, okay, now how can we overcome this? Because I know the earth is flat. See, that's the part you have to keep coming back to. You have to keep coming back to you're playing hopscotch. You have to keep coming back to one and go again, you know, jump here, jump here, jump here, jump here. You same thing with video games. You get killed in the third level, you got to start back at the beginning again and go again. Okay. And this time, don't go over there because that's where the hatchet man is. You know, you've got to go over this way now. Yeah. And so that's the better method of overcoming the obstacles. You know, the flight path thing, people said, you know, there's just no way that this flight can take this long from here to here. And then people go, oh, it's because they go up here and come back down. No, you can't prove that they all do. You know, this person took this flight and went from here to here, and it took 15 hours, and this is how many miles they went. So they had to have flown straight because that's how many miles they went, and that's how long it took. Okay, they couldn't have gone all the way up here and all the way back down here. Okay, and so those are the things that we should be looking at. We shouldn't just poo-poo the people who are fighting against our models and fighting against and just call them trolls and shills and, go away, because they have a legitimate concern. Just like when people watch my red boat video and they put in the comments, ha ha ha, you just proved that the earth is round because that boat just went over the curvature. Somebody else will come on and in the comments and say, no, you idiot, it just proved that there was a mirage and the bottom of the boat is missing in the mirage. And they go back and forth, and I don't say anything. I just read all the comments and say, well, they got a good point for this guy. Oh, point for that guy. And watch the debate, because it's a good debate most of the time when they don't start calling each other creepy names. And so anybody can make something work. It's what allowed the globe Earth model to last for so long, because nobody questioned when they started adding the layers in, oh, it's a globe. Well, how does everything not fall off? Oh, gravity. And how does it, spin. And then it just kept, adding layers and layers of ad hoc reverse engineered theories that made the observable facts work. Okay. We need to not do that. And that's what I see us doing. That's why this dome thing happened so easily, because then it's just spinning around inside of the dome. Well, then wait a minute. Why somebody, some Christian guy, some pastor, somebody just posted a video that has this little boy in it, and it shows that this plane going up above the cloud level, okay, and the sun was literally below the clouds, okay, and the here's the plane, and here's the